In this video, I'm going to talk about how we can look at two different layers that have different rate information in order to identify where high rates overlap between the two of them. So, in this example, I would be looking at poverty by census tract, which you can see if I unclick the COVID death rate. And then I want to see if COVID death rates are high where poverty is high. Okay, and I want to visualize it, and I want to do some kind of analysis around that to be able to give an answer. Is the COVID death rate high where poverty is high? Okay, so I already have my poverty census tracts colored up by percent of poverty in the census tract. And this COVID death rate by zip code is a different shape than the census tracts. The zip codes are bigger, so I can't easily just join by either field value because they don't have the same ID, or by location because they don't have the same shape. So it's going to be a little more complicated than that, maybe. First I'll show you the easy way to do it. Okay, so if I color this by, let's do graduated, and we're going to do death rate and classify, and then I don't want it to be red because I already have reds in there, so we'll do blues, and we see that a low death rate, this is a variable that we calculated as per 100,000 residents, is in white, and a high death rate, COVID death rate per 100,000 residents, is in dark blue. So that looks fine. We'll press OK. I have that one turned off so you can't see it, but if I turn it on, it looks like that. Alright, so how can we show both of these layers in one map in a way that is meaningful? Well, one way to do it would be to turn off these lower death rates, and we can just focus on where we have high death rates. So let's look at the top two quantiles here. Of course, we can't see through this dark blue color, so we can just symbolize them with hashes. So this is similar to a lab that you did in the very beginning of the semester. I think it was one of the first maps that you made, and we can experiment with what we'll be able to see. Let's try that. So you can kind of see that it's there, but it's a little difficult. Maybe we'll try to do it like that, and then maybe make these lines thicker. Let's see how that looks. Let's see that, and I think that that stroke is what I made thicker, which I don't necessarily want, but I guess it kind of helped. And we'll press OK. Alright, so now we can see these areas with hashes are the areas that are high COVID death rates, and you can still see the poverty underneath it. It doesn't look great. I would mess around with this more, but of course I'm not. Yeah, maybe I like the less border better. It takes time to kind of see what looks good, and then in order to kind of reduce the number of lines in here, I might go into this poverty and take out the outline. So say no pen for this stroke width. No pen. Okay, so now you see that I'm taking out those black lines so that this high death rate area can really pop out a bit more. Do this again, and two more times. Okay, now of course I need the outline of Philadelphia to come on top of what I have here to make it look a little better. Come on, outline. You know what? Let me close those and bring it up. There we go. So now I have the outline. I have the high death rate area, and you can see poverty shining through. So we can say there are some areas where we have high poverty and high death rate, but we also have high death rate in areas that are not high poverty. So this could, be a visual representation of that combination of two variables. Now, to get a statistic, to quantify, what is the average poverty in these high death rate areas, we can do this a couple ways. I'm going to show you the one that's popping into my brain first. And because I don't have that many of these zip codes, I can literally just select them. So I'm going to press this select button up here and hold down my shift key so that I can select multiple. Oh wait, I have to make sure that that layer is highlighted, this one right here, or else it's going to not know which layer I'm trying to select. So again, shift key, and now I can select. I'm just selecting all of these that I have in hashes because they are the ones in the top two quantiles of death rate. And I'm going to right click on here and go to export, save selected features, and we're going to say high COVID deaths and press OK. So now this is a separate shapefile. And what I'm going to do here is a combination of things we've done previously, either in previous videos or previous labs, plus a little twist. So if you don't want to do this, that's fine. I'd say if your data is clearer, let me unselect that, you could, the cheater way to do this, which I will accept for the final, but I won't be super impressed, but you'll pass this aspect of it, is to just say, let me count how many look like they're in high poverty areas. I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 zip codes are really in high poverty areas. And then you would divide that by the total number of zip codes that we have in the top two quartiles, and say, what is it, like 70, probably not even, like whatever, 70%, you're going to divide the number that are high poverty divided by the total number of high COVID zips, and come up with a percentage and say X percent of zip codes that have high death rates are also high poverty zip codes. Okay? That would be the easy way to do it. Again, not super scientific, but would work for our purposes here. If you want to get more specific, I'm going to show you what to do. So now we have this layer that is only the high COVID deaths. Remember, this one we just turned off. So this layer still has the lower COVID death rates. I'm just only visualizing the higher COVID ones. But in this yellow layer, so I can turn that off. In this yellow layer, the only ones that exist are the ones that have the high COVID death rates. Okay? And let's see, here we have, how many features do I have here? 19. Okay. So if I had said 7 of them were high, I would have done 7 divided by 19 times 100, and there's my percentage of zip codes that are also high poverty, high COVID death zip codes that are also high poverty. But here we're going to do it a little more scientifically, and I'm going to go to geoprocessing. Oh no, what do I want to do? Vector, geoprocessing tools, and we're going to dissolve. So that's going to take, you know how I have these 19 zip codes? I'm going to make them just all one record, and it's just, they're going to look like multiple polygons because they're not all connected to each other, but it's going to view it as one thing. So since I already had this layer highlighted, it automatically came up, which is great. And I'm just going to go ahead and press run. And we'll see if that works. Beautiful. So now if I go into this dissolved layer and open the attribute table, I have one thing. That might be the average death rate, and I probably could have specified that, but it might not be. I'm not sure. But that's not really what I want here. What I want is the average poverty. So now I have this one layer. That's great, but I need to go back in here, and in a previous video I took the centroids of poverty census tracts. So if you didn't watch that video, then you're going to want to go back and do that first. Yeah, go back. I can just show you. It's not that hard. Okay, so pretend I don't have these centroids yet. I would go to the toolbox. Oh, whoops, I already had it open. Toolbox, and I'm going to go to Vector Geometry, and I'm going to click Centroids. And what I want is the centroids of the Philly Poverty Census Tracts. It can be a temporary layer. I'm just going to use it for math and then dump it out later. So go ahead and run and close. And now I have these centroids. And if I put my centroids on top of this dissolved layer, you see that I have a lot of centroids within this dissolved layer of high COVID deaths. Okay? So now we're going to do exactly what I did in a previous layer where we took a mean, previous video, sorry. We took a mean of the centroids within a buffer and figured out what the average poverty was within each buffer. This time, I just want the average poverty within all of the high COVID death areas. So I'm going to go, where is it? To Vector General. And we're going to do this join attributes by location, which means it depends, whether or not it gets joined is whether or not they overlap with each other. But I'm going to take a summary because I want an average. So let's see. The dissolved is the feature that we want to join in, and we want to bring in centroids. I have multiple centroids here, but they're honestly the same thing. This fields to summarize, I want to summarize poverty. So I'm going to do percent poverty because I need to pick a numeric variable, and instead of run, don't click run, I'm going to go back, and here I'm going to pick that I want the mean. That's how I want it to summarize. And we're leaving this as intersect. Okay? So we're going to run and close. Alright, now I have this joined layer. And I'm not going to actually display in my map this joined layer, but it's going to give me the statistic that I need to report in the write-up. That's the key piece. So what I'm going to show in the map is going to be this poverty layer, and then actually I could do dissolved. That might help. Well, I could either do what I had here where it shows the different zip codes. That's probably what I would want to do, so you can see the different zip codes. That might be what I show in my final map with a nice layout, of course. But the statistic that I'm going to report is in this joined thing, and it's the percent pov mean. So 24.6%. So you would say in your write-up, the average poverty rate in the zip codes with the highest COVID deaths is approximately 24.6% or 25%, or you could say a quarter of the population in the highest COVID death rate zip codes were in poverty or are impoverished, right? That's what we're taking this to mean. I would be careful about reporting this unless we go back and make sure that when we do a dissolve, we specify, where is it? Geoprocessing tools, dissolve. We specify, I guess it dissolved all of them, but can we, I don't know if it's taking the mean. I don't know if it might say in here, if it's just giving you, I'm not sure what it's giving you here. So I would be personally, until you figure that out, hesitant to report anything about that rate that it gave. But maybe we can figure it out if we open the attribute table for these 19 variables. It looks like that could be the mean, because the death rate it reported was like 450-ish. So maybe maybe you can say, yeah, you could probably say the average death rate in the high death zip codes was 451 deaths per 100,000 residents, and the average poverty in those zip codes is approximately 25%. And that's what you'd put in your write-up. Okay, I hope that helps some of you who are trying to figure these things out, but feel free to contact me with more questions.